my takeaway from this game is Justin Herbert isn't as good as everyone wants him to be. Now, he is still very good, but it feels like he hasn't improved in the way you expect a quarterback to. Quarterbacks come, he started off the bench unexpectedly his rookie season and went toe-to-toe with Mahomes, and we were all like, oh, okay, this kid can play. And he really hasn't gone past that point. And tonight, the numbers don't look bad, but I really put this loss on him. I think he played poorly. Yes, the box score says he doesn't, but this is why you watch the football games. He missed a couple huge passes. He missed what would be touchdown passes, I think, to Keenan Allen. And that one, they ended up scoring on, but he was late on his read to the flat, which would have been a go-ahead touchdown. He ended up getting it later, but I thought he struggled. And on the other side of the ball, Dak Prescott looked good. He was a little late on some of his reads, but it looked more like the younger Dak. He was using his legs to make plays. He was rolling outside the pocket, keeping the play alive, finding somebody downfield because he was pressured a ton. He was sacked, I think, 5 times. Justin Herbert has never taken that second step that maybe even like a Trevor Lawrence has. I wonder if we're ever going to see that, and I wonder if we start to see the collective football world start to acknowledge that maybe we don't just keep lumping Herbert in with these upper echelon of quarterbacks.
I'm kind of impartial either which way because I can see. I thought that having Kellen Moore come in here was going to change things a little bit for Herbert. I really did. I thought it would maybe open up his game a little bit more and kind of expose some of the weaknesses before Kellen Moore came onto the team, but it hasn't. And I mean, he was playing with a broken finger tonight. I get it, but it was on a non-throwing hand. He made some throws, though, that was like, okay, well, that's like top-level throws. Like there were a couple of them where he fit it in a real tight window, and you're like, wow, okay. So he can make those throws. But then there was those obvious just complete misreads or completely overthrown balls too high, too low. It was very sloppy. It looked more like a rookie performance than a guy who's been in the league for, 3-4 years now?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's not like he was bad. Obviously, he's a really good quarterback. Obviously, he's very talented. But he gets mentioned as a top 5 quarterback. He gets put with, right underneath Mahomes and Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence beat him in that playoff game. He hasn't taken that step that I feel like he should take. So we might need to start pumping the brakes and just reanalyzing how we talk about Herbert, because even though his stats aren't bad, like you said, there were a couple crucial overthrows in that game. I just don't think he played particularly well. He played like a B+ game.
Yeah, but you and I have both said that, when you talk about the top 3 quarterbacks, there's a pretty huge drop-off after those 3 to number 4. And so I don't want to react too harshly just on this game. I know there's been several other games where you still question that. But until you get out from the Brandon Staley umbrella, I really don't know that we'll ever see the full potential of Justin Herbert. Now, what I will say on the other side of the ball, to switch gears a little bit, Dallas's defense performed really well tonight without Van Der Esch. Like you said, the offense performed pretty well too. Dak did play a lot younger than we've seen him play in quite some time.
Yeah, they weren't able to run the ball at all. Really, neither team. Austin Eckler only had 27 yards on 14 carries. Pollard had 30 yards on 15 carries. Dak had the biggest run of the night on that read option where he kept it for the touchdown. It was really, Pollard had that big play for the pass where Dak found him when he was scrambling right, but it was really the 2 quarterbacks going at it and the defense keeping the teams in the game. And so many points left on the field. The Chargers have to be kicking themselves at the end, and it was going to be like this either way because both teams went for it on 4th down in the red zone like multiple times instead of taking field goals. The whole analytics thing really kind of gets on my nerves sometimes. When you're in a game where your defense is playing well and you're going back and forth, just take the points. They're passing up on points over and over and over again.
It's so funny that you and I are such factual type people and statistic type people. Like we think there's an answer behind every question, and we don't like being emotionally driven. However, in games, I think coaches should do what they think is best in the moment.
Right.
To get that little statistic out of your ear, don't listen to what these guys behind a keyboard have said you should do. Do what 20 or 30 years of coaching says you should do here.
But that's it. And that plays on a broader point, which is analytics. I like poker, and it's similar to poker. Poker is now played really with GTO, which is what's called game theory optimal. I'm not going to get too in-depth on it, but basically Texas Hold'em has been figured out to where there are mathematical plays that if you play this over the course of, thousands of hands, you will, net positive. That's great. That's what analytics are. But a coach, you're not making that decision 1,000 times. You're making that decision right now in this game against this opponent. If I'm going to be here for 20 years and I get to be in that decision, over the long haul, my fourth down decisions might turn out okay. But it takes the gut feel out of it, which on the surface might sound silly. But as you said, you should be more, I don't even want to use the word emotional, but your gut feeling should dictate what you do, how your team's playing. Other things go into it besides, hey, if you do it 1,000 times this way, it'll work out for you. Well, I've got to do it right now on Monday Night Football on primetime or my season's over. So right. I agree. I think both teams left a lot of points on the board, but Dallas needed this victory bad to recover from the San Francisco disaster. Micah Parsons did show up late with that late sack. That was good. Dak Prescott, I thought, played really well. Dallas defense was decent, not great, but Justin Herbert, I think, kind of let the Chargers down overall. But it was a really good game to watch, a fun game. And I think Dallas is going to be able to turn the ship around and get their mindset right because they've got a bye next week. Whereas the Chargers, on the other hand, they got to go play Kansas City. And they need to win that one because if they lose to Kansas City, they're 2-4 and falling fast in the playoff picture.
We'll get to see how that goes, but you did mention Dallas does have a bye next week, and boy, do they need it because they come back into a whirlwind of games with the likes of the Eagles, the Rams, you got the Seahawks, the Eagles again, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Lions. I mean, they have a very tough schedule up ahead, so they need this bye week to rest, recuperate. If they played like they did tonight, there's not much you can improve on. Yeah, maybe get the running game going a little bit better. But other than that, they played a pretty well-rounded game tonight. And I'm kind of happy to report that Dallas looked like they didn't look as good as they did in week 1, but they did look like a contender for the playoffs tonight.
Yeah, well, that's what they always do. They always look like a contender until they run up against a buzzsaw. They're going to do well against teams like the Chargers, and then they're going to collapse when it matters most. But until then, congrats on the Monday night win. It was impressive, and it was a fun game.